When you walk down the soda aisle at your local store, you'll see a lineup of familiar names: cola, root beer, tonic water, and of course, ginger ale. It's crisp, refreshing, and a go-to remedy for an upset stomach. But have you ever stopped to think about why it's called ginger ale? The word ale usually makes us think of beer, yet ginger ale is non-alcoholic. So how did it end up with that name? Let's dive into the fascinating history and evolution of this fizzy favorite, right here on History of Simple Things. To understand why it's called ginger ale, we need to go way back. Long before there was a carbonated soda called ginger ale, there were ginger-based drinks used for medicinal purposes. Ginger has been prized for centuries, especially in Asian cultures, for its ability to help with digestion, nausea, and inflammation. When European traders brought ginger to the West, it quickly became a popular spice, not just for food, but also for drinks. By the 17th century, people were brewing fermented ginger beverages, basically an early form of ginger beer. This wasn't the soda we know today. It was an alcoholic brew, spicy and strong, made by fermenting ginger, sugar, water, and sometimes lemon. The natural fermentation created bubbles, much like beer. This is where the connection to ale first starts. Ginger beer became incredibly popular in England and its colonies in the 18th and 19th centuries. It was flavorful, slightly alcoholic, and refreshing. In fact, ginger beer was once more common than beer in some places because it could be made at home with simple ingredients. However, because ginger beer was brewed, it fell under the category of ale or beer. At the time, ale was a general term for fermented beverages made without hops. This distinction matters because ginger beer wasn't hopped like regular beer. The word ale simply signified a fermented malt-free drink, so calling it ginger ale made sense historically. By the mid-19th century, the popularity of ginger beer began to change. Public taste started shifting away from heavily fermented beverages, and new technologies allowed drinks to be carbonated without fermentation. This was a game-changer. Enter the soda fountain era. Carbonated water became trendy, and chemists began experimenting with flavoring it. Ginger was a natural choice because people already loved ginger beer. Around this time, the first versions of what we now call ginger ale appeared. These early ginger ales were lighter, sweeter, and far less alcoholic than traditional ginger beer. One key player was a Canadian pharmacist named John McLaughlin. In 1907, he created Canada Dry, a mild, dry-style ginger ale that became a worldwide hit. Unlike its predecessors, this ginger ale was completely non-alcoholic, perfectly clear, and much less spicy. It was marketed not just as a drink, but as a cure for indigestion and nausea. Here's the interesting part. By the time ginger ale became a soda, the term ale was already deeply associated with ginger drinks. Even though the modern version isn't brewed or fermented like beer, the name stuck. There are a few reasons for this. First is tradition. Consumers were already familiar with ginger beer and ginger ale as beverages. Changing the name entirely could have confused buyers. Second is marketing appeal. In the early 1900s, the word ale gave the drink a sophisticated, almost medicinal edge. It sounded more like something you'd sip to feel better rather than a sugary soda. And third is cultural transition. At the time, many carbonated beverages borrowed terminology from alcoholic drinks. Think about root beer, another soda with a beer name. So even though modern ginger ale isn't technically an ale, the name stayed because of its historical roots. Throughout its history, ginger ale has carried a reputation as a healthy drink, even when it became a soda. This ties back to ginger's medicinal properties and the old practice of drinking ginger beer for digestive issues. In the early 20th century, doctors often recommended ginger ale for upset stomachs, nausea, and even morning sickness. It wasn't just a home remedy, it was advertised as a health drink. This medicinal association helped cement its place as more than just another soft drink. Even today, many people instinctively reach for ginger ale on airplanes, in hospitals, or when they're feeling queasy. The branding worked, and the tradition continues. Today, when you hear ale, you probably think of craft beers or English ales. That makes the name ginger ale feel a little misleading to modern ears. After all, there's no brewing, no hops, and no alcohol. However, language evolves, and so do brand names. In this case, the word ale is a historical relic, a nod to its fermented ancestors. It's similar to how we still call root beer beer, even though it's a soda, or how tonic water doesn't actually tone anything. The name has outlived its original meaning. Ginger ale's journey didn't stop with Canada Dry. Today, it's sold worldwide, with countless variations in sweetness, ginger intensity, and branding. In some countries, it's considered more of a mixer for cocktails, like the classic whiskey ginger. In others, it's still seen as a healthful drink to sip when you're sick. Interestingly, some craft beverage companies have started reviving the stronger, spicier golden ginger ale, catering to people who want a bold, more authentic ginger experience. These drinks are closer to their roots, and they show how the history of ginger ale still influences the present. So, why is it called ginger ale? The answer lies in history. The drink we know today evolved from ginger beer, a fermented alcoholic beverage that fell under the category of ale. Even when it transformed into a mild, non-alcoholic soda, the name stuck because it carried tradition, familiarity, and a touch of old-world charm. What started as a spicy medicinal brew became a household staple, bridging the worlds of health and refreshment. The word ale may no longer describe its brewing process, but it tells a story, one that connects centuries of ginger-loving cultures. The next time you crack open a can of ginger ale, take a moment to appreciate that little word on the label. It's a reminder of where the drink came from and how a name can carry history forward, one fizzy sip at a time. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.